Second question was asked by a nice lady who was walking with me in the morning, just behind me. I joked with her. I said, "You're going on talking." I said, "Are you a Chatterjee?" She said, "No." So the question that was asked was, how do I find a realized soul? Serious question. How do I find the realized soul? And how do I know the person is realized? Now this word realized, I think it's time to take it off from the dictionary. It's become quite complicated and misunderstood. My question is, how will you, with your mind which is still not expanded, really figure out who is realized and who is not? How? What is the meaning of realize? People usually say self-realization. There, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is an entire chapter where the great Rishi Yajnavalkya is advising or teaching his wife Maitri, one of the wives, who wanted to go off into the forest with him. And it's repeated for a whole paragraph. He says, Maitri, the love you have for me is not because of me, but because of the self. The love you have for your child is not because of the child, but because of the self. Why do we love? Because it fulfills our own self, right? Now this has been interpreted as the Supreme Self. So I think first practical meaning of self-realization is to know your own self as you are. Not project that I am a spark of the Supreme Being. We don't know really. Is the spark of the Supreme Being constantly getting angry, constantly drowning itself in the spirit that comes in the bottle? Which spirit, which self it is? So the first meaning of self-realization is to understand oneself as one is now, not project that there. Actually, it is the mind that divides itself into two, because it doesn't want to admit that it is so bad. So it says, no, this is bad, but there is that. You don't know actually. I say there is, but you don't know. So, suppose the problem is because of my this self. How will I sort out that self without knowing it completely? So first you have to study yourself. This is self-realization to begin with. Study yourself. How do you study yourself? Watch yourself carefully under all circumstances. In communication with the world. In isolation you cannot do it. You go to the cave. How do you know how you are? You might feel that now I am free. Babaji used to tell me, you are meditating in that cave for 10 years, practicing your meditation 10 hours a day, and then you say, now I am free of all conditioning. How? I'm freed myself from anger. Who would you get angry with? With the cave? Who will you get jealous of? The cave walls? It's when you come out of the cave and get into a bus and somebody kicks you on your toe, especially with a stiletto heel, then you know where you stand. I'm not saying you should not go into solitude for short periods of time. I'm not saying that. Yes, it is good. But to know yourself can be known only in communication with the outside world. Otherwise you cannot figure out. You can pretend or imagine that you are free, but no. So this is realization. When you have seen how it it covers the truth, then you will be able to remove it. First you have to study it, right? You can't remove something without knowing its nuances and how tricky it is and how it operates. This study is the beginning of self-realization. Not sitting and saying, I am the Brahman. You're not, at least now. You might be in the ultimate analysis, but so that's one thing. Now, suppose you're looking for a so-called, in inverted commas, self-realized soul. How do you figure out? Does he have two noses or 3 ears? Does he look different from you? So, I'm going to tell you a story about this. Now, this is a Sufi story about discovering the great realized person. Honestly, if there is a realized person, as you say in brackets, that person will discover you. You can never find that person. You can go by what is described in past, but you cannot find. Because he has no time to waste. He or she, could be she. So when he sees potential, he catches it. He's always looking for potential. That is his job, his work. Now the story. There was a man in the Middle East somewhere. Sufi story, so it is set in that background. Could be anywhere. And when he was very young, he was born in a very, very poor family. So he suffered. So he wanted to become rich naturally, on one side. On the other side, there was a deep inclination towards the spiritual. There was a spark in him. But somehow, in the process of becoming rich in the world, that spark was neglected. He gave more attention to this. So he became a rich man. Now, in those terms, that geographical part of the country, become rich means you become a big trader. You have many caravans going from country to country, you're trading, a big man. When he reached the age of 55, he realized, because there is this inner earning somewhere inside sitting, he realized, now I am so rich, but I don't seem to be able to buy happiness. The dollar or whatever they use, cannot buy happiness. It can give a little bit happiness here, it can't buy happiness. I seem to be unhappy, worrying about my business, this, that. So he decided, now it's time. He began to think of vanaprastha. So he gave up all his wealth. I'm not saying you should give away your wealth. Now please don't get worried. Tomorrow you won't come to the satsang. I don't want it. He gave up all the money, all the wealth that he had, distributed it among his children, who of course, to be decent in the way of society, said, no, why, and took it finally. And then he had enough money to build a small cottage, a kutir, in an oasis where he could go and meditate. Said, enough is enough. During these years, one thing was, he had read a lot from all these books that talk about spiritual matters. So he had a huge collection of books in his library. So he said, now I must put my entire attention to this. So he took all the books, built a kutia in an oasis. There is no water. So an oasis is a place where there is a little bit of water. Things have changed now. They worked hard, there is water everywhere. So he went, stayed in the kutia with his library. Now, there was one problem. 55 years having lived as a rich man, he had forgotten even how to make a cup of tea. So he went to the village and searched and found a guy who said, I can cook well. And he took him. So there were only two of them. The cook who made his food and his books and himself. 7 years he worked very hard, trying to meditate, trying to read, trying to understand. He was getting good food. At the end of 7 years, it occurred to him that this thing which I am seeking requires a teacher, requires a master or a teacher who has already traveled on the path. Seem to be many pitfalls, largely uncharted territory. So I need to find somebody. So from that day, he started searching for a teacher. He went into the deserts around the oasis, found some people sitting in caves and meditating. Somehow he was not satisfied. He did not think that they are realized souls, as I was asked to do. He did not think. Maybe they were. How do you judge? So he, on the verge of getting tired, when one day he saw a man coming towards him. He had all the standard trademarks of so-called self-realized, God-realized, which is what? He had a big beard. I'm not talking about you, sir. A good man. Long beard. So big that you could even stuff it into your collar. No. And he had a turban on his head, multicolored, rosaries all round his neck, one rosary in his hand, tall, good-looking, nice, peaceful face. He prostrated before him and said, Sir, I think you are a God-realized soul. Can you make me your disciple? He said, First, how do you know that I am a God-realized soul? No, I see your face is so serene. He said, maybe I have put on. How do you judge? How do you know? That is one point. Second point is, even if I have to take you as my disciple, I can't do it on my own because I have a guru. And I have to take his permission and then take you as a disciple. He said, then why don't you do that? Because it is urgent for me. He said, no, this is the problem. It's 7 years since my guru has disappeared. I can't find him anywhere. I've searched. I'm still searching. That's why I came here. So this man said, I am desperate for a teacher. So can you find him? I will also help you. We will search together. 2 people are better than 1. And then when you find him, ask him and please accept me. He said, okay, come on. Okay, then he said, give me a description of your guru so that I can also help you. We'll go together. He said, look at him, he's a nondescript little fellow. Doesn't wear upper garments, wears only a lungi. And he always has a towel on the left shoulder. But he's a very good cook. He said, just a minute. Now this description which you gave me sounds like the description of my cook who is with me for 7 years. It cannot be. Can we go and check? He said, okay. So they went. They reached the kutia. The kitchen door opened and the cook walked out. As soon as the cook came out, this man prostrated before him and he said, "Oh master, where have you been for 7 years?" He said, "I was cooking for this guy." He said, "What? But he is still looking for a teacher." "Yeah," he said, "it took me 7 years to make him understand that he needed a teacher. Now that he wants one, you please accept him as your disciple because I have other work to do. I'm going." Put a towel and walked off. All I'm trying to say. How do you know? Maybe a man, the ranger who is standing there, he might be a realized soul. How do you know? Seriously. Are you looking for the paraphernalia or are you looking for reality? So please think about this. I'm discussing the question which was asked to me in the morning. I also have quite a scholarly or long thesis of a question.